Hey, thanks for showing up. This is episode 6 of how to install a 5200 bottom. Last time we talked about the inner bottom and how we install that and nail that down. And this time we're going to be going over bottom planking itself. And we'll talk about how to bend that around up in the front up there and then gluing it down as well too. So let's get started. So what we started with was a rough plank that was about 1.25 inches thick, a 5/4 board, and we resawn that and we split it in half. So now we have a plank for one side of the boat and then a plank for the other side of the boat. And that's called book matching. And Chris-Craft did that pretty much throughout the boat, definitely on the decks and the sides. They book match everything. And so one of the reasons that they did that is because it saves lumber. So if you take a 6/4 or a 5/4 piece of lumber and you cut it down in the middle, you will come out with basically, after you mill it, with 2 1/2-inch thick planks. And so there's very little waste to that. So what you want to do is you want to lay out, get your board out, you want to lay out your old plank. We took these planks off and they're a good pattern, okay? Set that right on your board, clamp that down and trace out around it. What we use here are little pieces of wood like this. It's about 1/4 inch thick and we put it on one side and we trace that board out all the way around. That's going to give you some safety on each side. You're going to just fit one side for right now, and then you're going to cut off the other side once you get it fit. This one actually is up against the keel, so we do the keel first. You draw your line out, give yourself a little bit of extra, start shaping that plank to the old one, and start fitting it to the boat. You want to make sure though, like we changed the stem and the gripe in this boat, and so you want to make sure that your pattern piece fits right. So what we did there is we put the plank on the boat again, and then we just took a piece of tape. It had a little gap up in here, so we took a piece of tape and we closed that gap up, and then when we laid this thing down, now we know where our pencil line should go to match the keel, the forefoot, and the stem. All right, so what we cut out, and I showed you over there, was this number 1 plank right here. These two pieces are book matched, right? And the reason that we didn't want to drill any holes yet, when we lay these planks down and get these to lay in here, we have very little holes. Like these holes right here are not there. These are for the intermediate frames that are in here, and I'll go over that in just a second. But you just drill one hole, you don't countersink it, you use a washer with a longer screw in it, and these are stainless steel, just temporary, and that's what you use to hold these things on. You can see we don't have a bunch of holes in here, because if you tried to lay this thing down with a bunch of holes all the way in here, it would split. It'd split right on the grain, and that would be it. Now, I got a little secret to tell you. We broke it. So we had to do it over again. So it happens. It's not a big deal. Just, you know, at that point in time, you got probably a better pattern to work off of. And so just don't fret over it. Just go start making another one. That's the best way to recover from it. You break a plank, you just go make another one. So you also, when you lay this plank in there, you're going to want to get these gaps nice and tight. Now, we're going to take these off and we're going to 5200. So you always want to lay these planks down from the front to the back. Don't ever try to put it in, you know, screw it in down there and then try to push this in, because it's just too difficult It's a lot easier if you let this thing just climb up in the air and you're screwing it down as you go. So we have all the planks built, and then we're going to 5200 down. So what we usually do too is in the back here, we'll mark all our holes where they should be on the frames only. Remember, there's a frame here, an intermediate frame, and then a frame. So just on your main frames, we'll mark out all those holes, get everything marked, get everything drilled that we can. We don't want to drill up in here yet though, because we're going to be bending that. That's going to be a lot of pressure and it could break. So mark out all your holes. Then what we're going to do is we're going to remove these planks one by one, starting from the last one you put in, and you're going to trace this line out. So take this one off and trace this line. Take this one off and trace this line. The reason we do that is because we don't want to be working over 5200, and we need to know where this edge of this plank is. So the first thing that we'll do is we'll squirt out a bunch of 5200, we'll trowel that down, and only to about here. And that way we're not working over it and getting it all over our clothes and stuff. We also want to put a nice bead. After you trowel all this 5200 down, you're going to want to put a nice bead right here on the edge, because if anything's going to leak anywhere, it's going to be this seam right here to your keel. And then this seam, plank to plank edge, you're going to want to put a bead of 5200 there as well. So, and then when you set these planks in, you're going to set them down and push them over. And that's going to have a nice bond between the two of these. When Chris-Craft made these boats, they didn't have open seams in here. I see it a lot. I see people redoing their bottoms and they put like a nickel width, or they put some sort of gap in between there. To me, that does not make any sense, because you want it as tight as possible. These boards aren't going to act like the old ones and then expand and shrink and expand and shrink and expand and shrink, because they're glued to the inner bottom. This plank is not going to move. So why give yourself a space where it could potentially crack, water could get in there? You know, it's just not good practice to do. So keep your seams nice and tight on the bottom. So now we need to put in our intermediate frames, and we do that right after we get one side done. We only do one side at a time. Get all the planks laid in with 5200, obviously new bronze fasteners. All your screws, holes are drilled, all your screws are in. And then you want to install your intermediate frames, and you want to do that in the same day, because while this 5200 is still wet, we're going to add in these intermediate frames underneath. And the reason that Chris-Craft used them, a lot of boat companies, Garwood used them too, it helps keep that inner planking down, and so the edges don't curl up. So these help do that. So you're going to want a 5200, a bead on here, and we have somebody inside the boat and then also a guy outside the boat, and then we install these, making sure that there's a gap about 1 inch between the keel and about 1 inch between the chine, and that allows water to pass through. So that's very important to do. So these are oak, made out of white oak, not red. Red oak tends to rot a lot faster. So white oak, they're about 5/8 thick by 7/8 wide. So very important to get these back into the boat. All right, thanks for showing up. I appreciate you being here, and hopefully that was helpful to you. Next time, we're going to show you filling, and then fairing, and then we'll show you the products that we use to barrier coat, and then bottom paint. We worked on the transom a bit as well. As you can see, we put a batten in here. They had just small pieces in here, and we put a batten that's dadoed into the frame, so that's going to be much better. We'll make our side planks up, we'll put our water line in, then we'll be able to paint the bottom and take care of that. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and we'll see you right back here. Thanks.